woke up gasping for air, drenched in sweat. My chest heaved like I'd been running for miles. It was just a dream, I told myself. Just a nightmare. But it didn't feel that way. Emily jolts upright in bed, her heart pounding so hard, it feels like it might burst from her chest. The darkness of her bedroom feels oppressive, the shadows along the walls seeming deeper than they should be. She reaches for the lamp on her nightstand, fumbling with the switch until it floods the room with soft light. The glow doesn't comfort her. She sits on the edge of her bed, her trembling hands brushing strands of damp hair from her face. The remnants of the nightmare cling to her like a second skin, vivid and haunting. She remembers the forest, dark, endless, and suffocating. The sound of her feet pounding against the sticky ground, the chilling sensation of webs snagging on her arms, and, worst of all, the relentless clicking sound of legs skittering somewhere behind her. Emily glances at the clock. 3 a.m. Of course it's 3 in the morning, she whispers to herself, her voice a shaky rasp. The air in the room feels unnaturally cold, making her shiver. She swings her legs over the side of the bed, her bare feet touching the hardwood floor. The cold bites into her skin, but she doesn't care. She needs water, something to ground her in reality. In the bathroom, she splashes water on her face, the icy shock snapping her back to the present. When she looks up into the mirror, her reflection startles her. Her eyes are bloodshot, with dark circles smudging the skin beneath them. But what catches her attention are the faint marks on her wrists. Thin, pale lines, almost like scars. Her heart skips a beat as she traces them with her fingertips. "I must have scratched myself in my sleep," she mutters. She stares at her reflection for a long time, searching for reassurance. But the longer she looks, the more uneasy she feels. The shadows behind her reflection seem to shift, as if something is moving in the corners of the room. She spins around, but there's nothing there. Get a grip, Emily. It's just your imagination. The next morning, Emily drags herself to work, exhausted and frazzled. She barely remembers getting dressed, her mind foggy from the restless night. At the office, everything feels off. The fluorescent lights seem dimmer than usual, the hum of computers louder, almost grating. Her desk, normally a safe space, feels alien and uncomfortable. She tries to focus on her tasks, but her thoughts keep drifting back to the nightmare. The forest, the webs, the clicking sound. It all felt so real. Her coworker, Jamie, stops by her desk. "Hey, Em, you okay? You look like you haven't slept in days." Emily forces a smile, brushing it off. "Just some weird dreams. I'll be fine." Jamie gives her a concerned look, but doesn't press further. As Jamie walks away, Emily notices something strange. The shadows beneath her desk seem darker than usual, almost as if they're moving. Shaking her head, she rubs her eyes. "I'm losing it," she whispers. As the day drags on, strange things keep happening. When Emily walks to the break room, she hears faint skittering sounds behind her. She stops and looks around, but the hallway is empty. In the bathroom, she feels a chill run down her spine, as if someone is standing directly behind her. The final straw comes when she catches her reflection in a window. For a fleeting moment, she sees something moving behind her, a blur of long, jointed legs. She spins around, her heart racing, but there's nothing there. Back at her desk, Emily can't focus. She stares at her computer screen, the words blurring together. Her mind replays the nightmare in vivid detail. She feels trapped, suffocated by the memory. By the time Emily gets home, her nerves are frayed. The walk from her car to her front door feels like an eternity. The quiet of the evening amplifying every small sound. The rustling of leaves in the breeze, the distant hum of traffic. It all feels sinister. Once inside, she locks the door, double-checking it before moving to each window and securing the locks. She draws all the curtains, leaving no gaps for prying eyes. She turns on every light in the house, creating a bubble of artificial brightness to keep the creeping darkness at bay. But even with the lights, the shadows seem wrong. They stretch too far, twist at unnatural angles. Emily sits on her couch, clutching a mug of tea she made to calm her nerves. The warm ceramic feels comforting in her hands, but it does little to ease her growing paranoia. Her phone buzzes with a text from Sarah, her best friend. "Hey, you okay? Haven't heard from you today?" Emily hesitates before typing back. "Yeah, just tired. Bad dreams lately. Nothing to worry about." Sarah's response is quick. "You need a good night's sleep. Call me if you need anything." Emily smiles faintly at the message, grateful for the support. But deep down, she knows sleep is the last thing she wants. As the night drags on, the silence of the house becomes oppressive. Every creak of the floorboards, every faint gust of wind outside, feels like a warning. The skittering sound from the nightmare echoes in her mind, growing louder, more insistent. Emily tries to distract herself by watching TV, but the shows fail to hold her attention. Her eyes keep drifting to the shadows in the corners of the room, where they seem to shift and writhe. Despite her best efforts to stay awake, Emily's eyelids grow heavier with each passing moment. The comforting hum of the TV fades into the background as sleep takes hold. She doesn't even realize when it happens. The nightmare begins, not with a jolt, but with a slow, creeping realization. She is back in the forest. The air feels thick and suffocating, the kind of humidity that clings to your skin and makes it hard to breathe. The trees are impossibly tall, their twisted branches intertwined with webs that pulse faintly, as if they are alive. The ground beneath her feet is sticky, clinging to her shoes with every step. A nauseating, sweet smell wafts through the air, like rotting fruit mixed with something chemical. She hears it again, the faint cries ahead, distant but unmistakably human. "Help me," a voice whispers, barely audible. Emily hesitates, fear rooting her to the spot. But curiosity and the desperate need to help whoever is out there drive her forward. The forest seems to close in around her as she moves, the trees bending unnaturally, their branches forming an ominous canopy overhead. The cries grow louder as Emily stumbles into a clearing. Her breath catches in her throat. Suspended from the gnarled branches above are dozens of cocoons, their silken exteriors glistening in the dim, eerie light filtering through the trees. The shapes inside them shift and squirm. Some are still, their contents long gone, but others writhe as if their inhabitants are fighting to break free. Muffled screams echo from within, weak and hopeless. Emily approaches one cocoon cautiously, her heart pounding. She can see a human shape inside, a face pressing against the thin, silken barrier. The face is gaunt, its eyes wide with terror. Its lips move silently, forming words she can't hear. Suddenly, with violent force, the face is yanked back into the darkness of the cocoon. The silk trembles as if something inside is devouring its occupant. Emily stumbles back, her hands covering her mouth to stifle a scream. "What is this place?" she whispers, her voice shaking. The sound comes again, the clicking of legs. It's closer this time, sharper and more deliberate. Emily spins around, her eyes darting through the shadows, but she sees nothing. The clicking grows louder, accompanied by a low, guttural hiss. From the edge of the clearing, the creature emerges. It's worse than she imagined. Towering and grotesque, its body is a horrifying blend of spider and something almost human. Its long, spindly legs move with an unnatural precision, each joint creaking as it steps closer. Its many eyes glisten in the dim light, reflecting Emily's terrified face back at her. Its abdomen is swollen and pulsating, strands of silk dripping from its spinnerets. Fangs protrude from its twisted mouth, dripping with venom that hisses as it hits the ground. Emily freezes, every instinct screaming at her to run, but her legs feel like they're made of lead. The creature tilts its head, its eyes narrowing, as if it's studying her, savoring her fear. With a burst of adrenaline, Emily finally breaks free from her paralysis and runs. Her feet pound against the sticky ground, but the webs tug at her shoes, slowing her down. The creature doesn't move immediately. It watches her with a predatory stillness, letting her think she has a chance. Then, with terrifying speed, it starts after her. Emily's breath comes in ragged gasps as she darts between the trees, the forest seeming to twist and shift around her. Every path she takes leads her back to more webs, more cocoons, more terror. The clicking sound follows her, relentless and unyielding. She can feel the creature's presence, its breath hot on the back of her neck. But when she dares to look back, there's nothing there. The forest grows darker, the trees taller, their branches reaching down like claws. The ground beneath her becomes softer, sinking under her weight. She trips, falling to her knees, and as she looks down, she realizes the ground isn't earth at all. It's a web, thick and pulsating. The clicking stops. Emily dares to look up. The creature is directly above her, clinging to the branches, its many eyes staring down at her with an almost gleeful malice. Emily screams as the creature lunges at her, its fangs bared. She thrashes and fights, her voice echoing through the forest. And suddenly, she's awake. She sits up in bed, gasping for air, her sheets tangled around her. The morning light streams through the window, bathing the room in warmth. For a moment, she feels relief. "It was just another nightmare," she whispers, her voice trembling. But as she pushes back her sleeves, her relief evaporates. Thin strands of silk-like webbing cling to her wrists, wrapping tightly around her skin. She tears at them frantically, her hands shaking. Her phone buzzes on the nightstand, pulling her attention. She grabs it and dials Sarah, her hands still trembling. "Sarah," she says, as soon as the call connects, her voice desperate. "I know this sounds crazy, but I think something's happening to me." Sarah's voice is calm, almost dismissive. "It's just stress, Emily. You're working too hard. Take the day off. Get some rest." Emily clutches the phone tighter. "No, you don't understand. These dreams, they're too real. And these marks..." She trails off, staring at her wrists. The webbing is gone, leaving only faint, pale lines behind. Her voice falters. Maybe you're right. But deep down, she knows Sarah is wrong. This isn't stress. It's something much worse. As she hangs up, she notices something out of the corner of her eye. A faint shadow moving across the wall, too large to be hers. The skittering sound returns. Emily collapses into bed that night, too exhausted to fight sleep any longer. She's left every light on, hoping the glow will keep the darkness at bay, but it doesn't matter. Her body gives in, her mind sinking into unconsciousness before she even realizes it. This time, the nightmare begins in suffocating silence. Emily blinks into the dim, hazy light of a cavernous space. It takes her a moment to understand her surroundings, and when she does, her breath catches in her throat. She is suspended in the air, her body wrapped tightly in a cocoon of silken webbing. The fibers constrict her movements, pressing against her chest and making it difficult to breathe. The cavern is enormous, its walls dripping with sticky, glistening webs that pulse faintly, as if alive. The air is heavy with the smell of decay and damp earth. She tries to scream, but her voice is muffled, the cocoon absorbing every sound. Panic sets in as she thrashes against the silk, but the more she struggles, the tighter it becomes, cutting into her skin like invisible chains. A sound echoes through the cavern, a rhythmic clicking that sends shivers down Emily's spine. She freezes, her heart pounding as the source of the noise comes into view. The monster looms above her, larger and more terrifying than she remembered. Its grotesque body moves with deliberate menace, its spindly legs clicking against the web-covered ground. Its many eyes glisten, reflecting Emily's pale, terrified face. Then it speaks, not with words, but with a voice that reverberates in her mind, cold and invasive. "You cannot escape. You were mine the moment you closed your eyes." Emily's eyes widen as the words sink in. She thrashes harder, desperate to break free, but the webbing tightens even more. The monster tilts its head, as if amused by her futile attempts. Around her, she notices the other cocoons, dozens of them hanging in the cavern's shadows. Some are still, their contents long gone, but others tremble faintly, as if their occupants are still alive. She locks eyes with one cocoon nearby. The face of a young man stares back at her, his features frozen in an expression of utter terror. His lips are parted in a silent scream, and his eyes are wide and glassy. Emily looks away, tears streaming down her face. As the monster moves closer, its voice grows louder in her mind, a relentless chorus of whispers and taunts. Emily's vision blurs, and suddenly, memories flood back, disjointed, chaotic, and horrifying. She sees herself running through the forest, stumbling over webs, and hearing the skittering sound behind her. She remembers the cocoons, the faces, the cries for help. But now, she understands. She had never escaped. She wasn't running through the forest. She had been here, in the cocoon, all along. The forest, the chase, the brief moments of hope. They were all illusions, nightmares, crafted by the monster to feed on her fear. Her screams, her panic, her desperate attempts to escape. It had been consuming them, savoring her terror like a fine meal. "This is what you are," the monster's voice hisses in her mind. "This is where you belong." As the monster's words echo in her mind, Emily's thrashing slows. The sticky silk tightens around her chest, pressing her heartbeat into stillness. The cavern's faint light dims, and for a brief moment, she sees her reflection in the glossy surface of one of the creature's many eyes, not as she is, but as she will be, another motionless cocoon among the others.